Copped a knock on my head today, right there. And there's like a genuine goose egg on my head. And it's probably in line with exactly where I'd usually rest my headphones, which is annoying. I could do this without headphones. Like, there's nothing I'm listening to while I speak. But I feel like it just looks, I like the headphone podcast. Anyway, what was I talking about? Goose egg. Yeah, it's just right there. And I've got to kind of avoid it because I feel like it's where I'm usually. Anyway, I think I'm okay. I'm just going to go with this. Welcome to episode 19 of Footy and Stuff. We're almost at 20, which is good considering the amount of time that we took off leading into the season. But anyway, I'm your host Brandon. If you're new here, welcome. If you're not new here, welcome back as per usual. Today we are reviewing round two. We're going to preview round three. We're going to do the player of the year votes again, Supercoach, tips, all that good stuff. You know how it goes. You should know how it goes at this point if you're not new. So let's just jump into it straight away with the round review. And for the second week in a row, we start with Carlton, which is just great. It's just brilliant. Carlton Hawthorn on Thursday night at the MCG. Where do I start? It was a frustrating one. It was a frustrating one. Was it any different to how I predicted it would go until the fourth quarter? It was probably exactly how I expected it to go. I said because of the weather, it would be scrappy, real tussle back and forth. And that's exactly how it went. If you go change by change, Hawthorn led at quarter time. We led at half time. They led by 5 points at three-quarter time, and then they ran away with it from there. And we did pretty much nothing in the last quarter, which is a part of the source of frustration. That we weren't able to play those four quarters and stick with them. However, I can't say I'm shocked at how the game generally went. Is that frustrating? Yes, because I didn't want it to go that way, but it did, and we were the team that probably pulled the short straw in the end, which is a little bit frustrating, as I said. It's annoying. I think it would be fair to say that we looked pretty competitive for a lot of this game. Like realistically, it wasn't anywhere near our worst. It wasn't anywhere near as bad as a lot of us thought it would be. Um, but there were just deficiencies that were too far off it in some areas. The inside 50s, every Carlton fan's talking about it this week, were just some of the kicking decision making inside 50s, as I said, they're just not going to cut it at this level. It's some of the worst in the competition. Assuming that is what we've come to expect from this Carlton side. It's not good. It's really not good. And when you're kicking it to Charlie Curnow in the state that he was in, clearly underdone, double teamed, dominated, like what's he meant to do? No Harry Mackay as well, so it's one less target, and Charlie was just out of his element. It was not his night at all. They did a fantastic job at managing to stop him, but yeah, no. The disappointing elements of this Carlton performance, though, are not to take away from Hawthorn and what they've managed to do here and what they're going to continue to do for the rest of the year and how they're looking as the season starts to kick on. They're going to be very good, and they look very good. Um, just complete egg on my face with that Hawthorn prediction. I'm already claiming the L on that one. I put them 10th. I said they'd lose five of their first six games. They're currently 3-0, and they look generally the same side that they were last year, which is huge, massive. I did forget to read the score out as well. Carlton 8-12-60 plays Hawthorn 12-8-80. The Hawks by 20 points. And that's just another added layer in terms of something that Hawthorn just did better than Carlton in the end. You can't have 20 scoring shots and kick 8 goals and expect to beat a team like Hawthorn, who are just much better at capitalizing on those opportunities, clearly, with the forward line that they have. 8 us apart in that area. So credit to them. And yeah, let's move on to some games that made me a little bit happier now. I say a little bit happier. We don't always love to see Collingwood picking up a win right after Carlton pick up a loss. However, Friday night, Collingwood 10-16-76, Bulldogs 10-10-70 on their 100th anniversary, which was a lovely event. It's not nice to Go out there and lose to Collingwood on your 100th anniversary, which is what they did. Um, Interesting game. Great watch. Great watch. The big story coming out of this one is the free kicks, of course. 33 to 14 in Collingwood's favour. And it's a tough one. I try to perceive this one as if it were Carlton Bulldogs, right? And the free kicks were 33 to 14 in our favour. And my philosophy has always kind of been with the free kick count that it's not entirely indicative because teams can be ill-disciplined. The free kicks can more often than not be there. And then what are you meant to do with that? However, 19 is such a gulf. Do I think it's entirely indicative? No. I think I'm less mad about that than other people are because ultimately, how many of them were there? Probably a lot of them. Were there calls late that went in Collingwood's favour, late and throughout, that went in Collingwood's favour that, in my opinion, were probably a little bit questionable? Yeah, definitely. And that's probably where my thinking leans to. Not the number itself, 33 to 14, but the calls in and of themselves. Because there were a couple late that could have been deliberate. There were just things that could have swung in the Bulldogs' favour that killed momentum completely. And that's just how the game is. Same thing happened against Carlton. I didn't feel the need to mention it because ultimately elements of our game were not good enough. But these things happen. Momentum gets killed by calls like this. In saying that, I think Collingwood were definitely a deserved winner in terms of the football they played. It was very good. Nothing to take away from their performance as a whole, in my opinion. So yeah, I mean, look, Bulldogs fans will complain, potentially rightfully so. But I think Collingwood fans and Collingwood as a whole can be pretty pleased with what they saw and what they were able to get out of the game. On to Super Saturday now. Now, I watched Essendon Adelaide, a fair chunk of it, and then got to the rest of it later. Port Richmond and St Kilda Geelong, I didn't watch live, so I'm not going to speak as extensively about those two. But Essendon Adelaide, I have a lot to speak about. Starting with the score, obviously 15-10-100 Essendon plays Adelaide 25-11-161. How do you score 100 points and lose by 10 goals? Beats me. The answer to that is they can't defend. It's defensively one of the worst teams in the competition for sure, but this performance in and of itself was just not up to scratch for the Bombers. Let's talk about Zach Merritt though, because this is it just like if you're Zach Merritt, what do you take out of a game of football like this? His stat line, 36 touches, 4 goals, 6 clearances, 11 inside 50s, 9 scoring involvements. This guy is just so good at football. And we'll do player of the year votes later, but I think he was the best player on the ground. Spoiler alert, sorry, Jordan Dawson. But how do you what more is he meant to do? What more do you do if you're Zach Merritt? Because everything just seemed to be falling apart around him. I mean, Essendon have their good players. Jai Caldwell was really good. Sam Draper kicked his 3 goals, and contributed. Tom Edwards kicked his 3 goals. But these are players forward of the ball and midfielders and captains of the club who are standing up when they're expected to stand up. Defensively, they were just man, I'd love to be a fly on the wall in the team meetings of Brad Scott over the last week because, gee, something's got to give. It's just, man, the structure, the one-on-one defending wasn't up to scratch. The effort in transition, Adelaide hit them on the counter, and it's just like they go to mud. Like, watch the highlights. Watch some of these Adelaide Crows transitions out of the back 50. I just, you want to pull your hair out watching it. You really do. But in saying that, at least we know at Essendon that um, there is some hope, at least going forward. They know what they have to work on, I think. And that for a team that is struggling, um, is a lot better than watching their team play football and thinking, what is actually wrong here? It's very clear what's wrong with this Essendon team. Um, and I mean, all they have to do is work at it. The talent's there. I still think the talent's there. There's a lot of talk this week about Essendon being in a rebuild, and I just they're so much better than a rebuilding side, just on pure talent. These players should be playing better than what they are, I think. So I don't know. It's interesting. We'll learn more. It's so early, like it's way too early to tell, but we will learn more about this Essendon team as we go on, I think, because they definitely have good performances in them. They've proven that. The list is the same. It's the same list of players. Second game on Saturday was fairly clear cut between the Power and the Tigers. Port Adelaide 21-14, 140 defeat Richmond 9-14, 68 in a 12-goal win. Um, yeah, pretty much went as I expected. I don't remember what I tipped Port by. I think it was actually a fair bit less than what they won by. I think it was in the 40s or something. But in saying that, I had no doubt that Port would get over the line here and Richmond would falter. Port are just, on paper, obviously a much better side than this Richmond team. Richmond overperformed massively in round one against Carlton. And there's no doubt about that. And then Port, I thought, are just a lot better than how they played against Collingwood. And they overran them. They really overran them. Obviously, I didn't watch this game live, as I said, but even just watching the mini match they were just far and away the better team. And so many good contributors across the board as well. It was a nice team performance by the looks of it. So well done to them. Yeah, no notes on that one. Final game on Saturday night was a match between St Kilda and Geelong. I was at the Dua Lipa concert on Saturday night. That's where I was. That's why I didn't get to watch the last two games. And looking at the score every now and then to this game, I was just so confused. So confused as to how this happened. And I think watching it back, there was absolutely no mistake about how this game went because it had nothing to do with the playing lists of the two teams. Momentum was out the window because the Cats had plenty of that going in, and it clearly didn't mean anything. This was entirely based on the structure and the game plan and what we've come to know of Ross Lyon as a coach because they systematically picked Geelong apart bit by bit, and it got them the win. Obviously, the Cats found themselves pretty far behind. Yeah, down by 5 goals at halftime, 5 goals again, pretty much at three-quarter time, and then they looked like they were getting back in it, and they just weren't able to do it. And I think, yeah, there are certainly realities where the Cats come back here and win. But the Saints just did a really good job of getting that lead, picking them apart, and then holding on in the end. Really good stuff from Ross Lyon and his Saints. And their midfield was just outstanding. It looked outstanding on the highlights, but even on paper, Jack McRae just so good. So much better, I thought, than last week. I think obviously Kane Cornes and his opinion of Jack McRae is at the forefront in terms of footy media. And I think there was weight around his opinion that Jack McRae wasn't particularly impactful in round one. Was it that bad? No, but I think he was certainly a lot more impactful this week than he was last week. And if we get this Jack McRae week on week for St Kilda, massive game changer. It takes them up a level for sure, for sure. He was by far their best. But even the other guys underneath him, Jack Steele, their captain, was so much better than what he has been. Jack Sinclair was fantastic. Zach Jones was really good. Um, and he hasn't really played at this level for quite some time, so that was really good. Win Hager, everyone's talking about him. He was fantastic too. So just a really good all-round performance from the Saints and their midfield, which is really where the game was won in the end by the looks. Moving on to Sunday, three games on Sunday, three very interesting games on Sunday. Starting with Brisbane and West Coast. And this looked fascinating at the start. Fascinating. Brisbane just looked like a shell of themselves. Obviously, it started off very much in the Eagles' favour, and I wonder how many people were watching this game thinking, can the Eagles actually do this here? Because they had them. They had them by the scruff of the neck, and they were dragging Brisbane through this game. Really interesting stuff. But I think as the game went on, the experience and the composure of these Brisbane Lions players, premiership players, mind you, really shone through. Lachie Neale, Josh Dunkley, Dane Zorko, Jared Berry was very good. Harris Andrews was fantastic. Just that core group of Brisbane leaders really stood up and got him over the line. I don't think there's much more to say other than the more well-oiled unit got the win in the end. Granted, fantastic effort from the Eagles. Obviously, the second half was much more off the pace, and that's where the Lions got them. However, that first half was fantastic. They matched it up to the reigning premier. They gave them a run for their money. They looked like they might have been winning this game at one stage. So you got to give them credit for that for sure. It's something to build on, definitely. Obviously, Harley Reid is a big story coming out of this game, and it's interesting. I see both perspectives that have kind of been portrayed. Where one side is lay off the kid. It's his second season. Let him kind of find himself and build with this team. And then the other perspective is he needs to focus on his football, and there are elements of his game where he's kind of getting distracted, obviously flipping the bird at the crowd, playing for free kicks, getting in tussles, so on and so forth. I think there's definitely an element where he has to be mindful about how he's acting on field for sure, but that's just like any player. But the pile on that's happening where everyone's getting on his back about it, I just feel as though it's at points a little bit unnecessary. I think I think he knows, and I'm sure he's having conversations with coaches and senior players and whatnot about those little things that he just needs to clean up and not give into as such on the field. Um, and yeah, it'll be very interesting to see how he responds and how he continues to respond. But yeah, I just don't know if a lot of the spotlight that's been put on him is as necessary at this point. But it's very interesting for sure. Moving on to possibly my favorite game of the round because just how have they done this? North Melbourne, 19-11, 125, defeat Melbourne 9-12-66. Until three-quarter time, this was a tussle, pretty back and forth. I think this North Melbourne side over the past couple of years have started to show those really good signs, and then in a situation where they have a chance to win a game of football like this, they've tailed off at the end and been beaten. And so watching that at three-quarter time as a North fan, I'm sure a lot of them were probably not as sure that that was going to happen because they're obviously an improved team, but there's always that lingering thing in the back of your mind, like, are we going to hold on here? Do we have what it takes? And in the foot, actually, to that point, three-quarter time of this game, I went to have a shower. Um, because I thought it was a good time to have a shower. I thought I had enough time. I went over by 2 minutes. I came downstairs, um, and it was like 17 minutes left in the fourth quarter. Great. I left when they were up by 3 goals, and North Melbourne were up by 6 goals. So as I was about to say, three-quarter time it just switched, and North just tore them apart. They were doing things, this North Melbourne team, that I have not seen them do probably since I was 15 years old. Like that prelim final they were in, those finals campaigns there. Transition football, counter attacking. They were defending with actual structure. Charlie Comben was fantastic, unbelievable performance from him. But as I said, they were defending with an actual game plan structure. They were attacking the footy. The effort as well was just so much better than what we've come to see from them in the past. Just yeah, they overran this Melbourne side. Melbourne shut down. They really shut down here. Yeah, I think, man, if North can keep this up, obviously there's a big test for North ahead of them this week against Adelaide, a team who have been performing really well now and seemingly are a much bigger test than what North have had in the first 2 weeks. So if they can take it up to Adelaide at Adelaide Oval, they don't need to win. They definitely don't need to win, but stick to what you've been able to do so well really over the first 2 weeks. Obviously, this game was a lot better, but even against the Dogs, they looked okay for a lot of that. Stick to what you've been able to really build upon and give it a crack. And that's all you can ask for. Give it a crack. And really, there are teams now that they're better than they should be expected to beat. Beat the teams that you should be beating and give it a crack everywhere else. And that is such unbelievable progression for a team like this. Really impressive. I liked what I was watching, for sure. And the final game of the week was Freo versus Sydney at Optus Stadium. Freo 9-11-65, lost to Sydney 9-14-68. Close game the whole way, pretty much. I mean, Freo started very well. They looked like they were going to overrun them at the start. Then Sydney pegged it back, and pretty much the last three quarters were very close. but it was a tough watch at times. Not very good. It was a real back and forth arm wrestle, but not really an exciting one. So it got frustrating to watch these teams trying to find something in this game and get something out of it. And yeah, it was just, yeah, it was a bit all over the place. However, Sydney were able to pick up the win, could have blown it on multiple occasions and still managed to get it done. Not their best footy. It wasn't Freo's best footy either, and I guess that's why they were in a position to be able to get up. But yeah, very interesting. I don't think this game gives me any more or less confidence in either of these teams. It's just very interesting. I'd love to see how they again both respond next week. Freo need to respond in the sense that they've now lost their first two games, and for a team that was expected to do a lot more with their season this year than what they did with their last, they're not really showing that early. And then Sydney, of course, obviously got the win, which they needed because 0-3 would have been a disaster for them, but they now need to come out and prove that not that it was a fluke per se, but prove that they have the ability to back it up. They also have the bye this week, which may not help them in terms of carrying momentum over. But they go into round four and they play North Melbourne at Marvel Stadium, and I think they should be expecting that they're a better side than that North Melbourne team. So it's interesting. It's interesting, very interesting. But yeah, the game wasn't a great watch. It is what it is. Sydney got the win. Good on them. And now that that is done, we will move on to our Player of the Year votes. We're not going to delay it at all. Let's start with the first three games. Carlton versus Hawthorn. One vote to Josh Battle, two votes to Tom De Koning, three votes to Jai Newcomb. Bulldogs Collingwood, one to Steele Sidebottom, two to Sam Darcy, three to Nick Dacos, and Essendon Adelaide, one to Ben Keys, two to Jordan Dawson, three to Zach Merritt. Starting with Carlton Hawthorn, one vote to Josh Battle felt pretty easy to me. There were a lot of really good players for Hawthorn on Thursday night that contributed to that victory, but I thought for such an important area where Hawthorn managed to get the win, like if Charlie Curnow was on, it would have been difficult for them because we had momentum at points in that game, and we could have run away with it for sure. And the job that he did on Charlie Curnow, particularly, was so impressive. I spoke about him last week and the role that he plays and what he adds to this Hawthorn backline and how he enhances their structure almost. And I think that really showed on Thursday night, especially. So he gets a vote for that. Two votes I've given to Tom De Koning. I didn't want to give a Carlton player any votes last week. This is the first time I've done it this year, despite the two losses. I just think Tom De Koning really deserved it here. He's been our best player 2 weeks in a row. But yeah, I just thought, especially on Thursday night, so good. Won that rap battle against Lloyd Meek for sure. Yeah, fantastic at clearance, clean with the football. Should have had a goal. Again, I'm not blaming umpires, but it was a shocker. It was an absolute shocker. He should have had a goal as well. But yeah, no, just really good from him. I think, man, who said it today? Lee Montagna said it today, I think, that every week he's adding 100K to that contract. And I'm really scared that we're going to have to pay. I'm not scared because I want him to stay. Like, I want us to pay to keep him. But we're going to have to pay a lot more than what we initially might have had to if he re-signed at the start of the year or the back end of last year, I think, because he's proving now that he's in that upper echelon of Ruckman. So yeah, two votes to him. Best player on the ground was Jai Newcomb, quite clearly, just terrific from him. 32 touches, 11 tackles, 9 clearances. He just dominated. He was dominant. Yeah, easy three vote choice for me. Bulldogs Collingwood, one vote to Steele Sidebottom, which now puts him on four. Just a terrific couple of weeks from him. And another very good game on Friday night against the Dogs. Obviously, he kicked the late winner, which sealed the game for them in the end, but he had another goal there as well. 22 touches, 6 clearances, 4 tackles. At his age, I didn't necessarily expect him to be performing the way he is, but clearly he's managed himself very well, Steel Sidebottom, because the way he's running out games is pretty impressive. I thought he was great again on Friday night. Not as good as he was last week with the three voter, but still really influential, and I think he deserves a vote here for sure. Two votes I go to Sam Darcy here. Despite the loss, he was just so dominant. I don't know how Darcy Moore would be feeling about that performance, but I don't think there was much he could really do. Sam Darcy's become that kind of key forward now that's just, even on your best day, you have to work to stop this guy. 4 goals, 8 marks, 15 touches. Just really dominant. So hard to stop in the air. If he's got that front spot and sticks his arms in the air, I honestly think 9 out of 10 times he marks that football. Because he has really good hands as well. Just really impressive. Liked what he was able to do. Three votes went to Nick Dacos. Pretty simple one. 39 touches, 7 marks, 4 tackles, 9 clearances, 8 inside 50s, 11 score involvements. He was pretty much everywhere for them. Um, and despite how he looked at the start of the year, particularly against the Giants, this is the type of Nick Dacos performance that we're going to see more often than not. Just real textbook kind of game from him. Outstanding. Deserve the 3 votes for sure. Essendon v Adelaide, starting with Ben Keys at 1 vote. Kick 4 goals. It feels like he kicks 4 or 5 every time he plays Essendon or Carlton in Melbourne. Just does it every time. So kicked his 4, 22 touches, 11 marks. Was pretty influential, I thought. Yeah, love his game. Love him as a player. Very good player. So I like it when he's on and doing things like this. Jordan Dawson, I gave the 2 votes. He's on for a career best year. Just fantastic. Yeah, got a lot of ball, 33 touches, 8 marks. The clearance work was on point, clean with it. He's very good. And I think if Adelaide look like they're going to make that jump and win more games of football, he's probably at this point a candidate, like a proper candidate for the Brownlow. Because he's right at the center of that. Just fantastic work from him. Couldn't give him the 3 because I thought anything other than 3 for Zach Merritt here, it would be a bit of a travesty. As I said before, I think I listed the stats in the review of the game itself. 36 touches, 4 goals, 6 clearances, 11 inside 50s. I think, again, as I said before, what more can a player do? What more can the captain of a football club do when his team is as down on their luck as Essendon clearly are right now? But you have this player who is just doing everything in his power to drag them out of it. Like such a strong leader's performance. To kick 4 goals and have 36 in such a difficult game for the team as a whole. He truly did everything in his power, I think. And he was by far the best player on the ground, in my opinion. The next 3 games, Port Adelaide versus Richmond, 1 to Logan Evans, 2 to Jace Burgoyne, 3 to Connor Rozee. St Kilda versus Geelong, 1 to Jack Higgins, 2 to Marcus Windhager, 3 to Jack McRae. Brisbane versus West Coast, 1 to Jared Berry, 2 to Harris Andrews, and 3 to Lockie Neal. These first 2 games here are obviously the ones I didn't watch live, so I'm not going to talk as in depth about these player performances. Port versus Richmond, I gave 1 to Logan Evans. I thought the transition out of D50 that I saw from him was excellent. I thought he was clean. I thought he was effective. Got his goal as well. Yeah, not much more you can ask for from him. Very good overall. 2 votes to Jace Burgoyne, who I thought was also excellent. 32 touches, 2 goals. Very good from him too. And Connor Rozee was just the best player on the ground. 39, 2 goals. Really standing up in the absence of Zach Butters, for sure. Captain, you got to do that when you're somewhat down on your luck. You have the loss you have last week. You're missing arguably your best player. Someone's got to stand up, and he definitely did that, in my opinion. Jack Higgins looked fantastic from what I saw. Obviously, he kicked the 4 goals, but I think what's clearly improved for him from a gameplay standpoint is that work rate. So defensively, I thought he was as fantastic as he was going forward. He's just everywhere. Like, he works really hard, and I admire that about him for sure. 2 votes I gave to Marcus Windhager. Kicked his 2 goals, 25 touches, did all that while nullifying Max Holmes completely, kept him under 20 touches. Just really impressive stuff from Marcus Windhager. And then the 3 votes to Jack McRae. As I said before, a lot more impactful than what he has been. Obviously had his 35 touches, 10 tackles, 9 clearances. But the impact of the decisions he was making was certainly at the forefront here. I think it looked a lot better compared to last week, and it showed in the game that St Kilda played as well. Went at 82.9%, 7 inside 50s, 10 score involvements. He did a lot more for them as a whole, I thought. Finally, Brisbane West Coast. 1 vote to Jared Berry. I thought it was either him or Zorko. I thought they were pretty equally impressive. What did it for me in the end was that more often than not, I'm kind of expecting these performances from Dane Zorko, and I thought Jared Berry really stood up, particularly given the game was on the line at points. So really good from him. 2 votes to Harris Andrews, just a rock at the back. Fantastic. 20 touches, 12 marks. It's so hard to beat him. So hard to beat him in the air. Yeah, really good performance from him. And then 3 votes to Lockie Neal. Bounced back from that tag against Sydney and was just, it was a Lockie Neal game. 35 touches and a goal, 8 clearances, really good. And the final 2 Sunday games, North Melbourne versus Melbourne, I gave 1 to Clayton Oliver, 2 to Tristan Jerry, and 3 to Tom Powell. Fremantle Sydney, 1 to Josh Tracy, 2 to James Jordan, and 3 to Chad Warner. North versus Melbourne, I had to give Clayton Oliver 1 vote. There were obviously some fantastic North Melbourne performances. They were very good, but I thought while Melbourne on the whole looked off it for sure, particularly in that last quarter, Clayton Oliver had a game. He had a massive, massive game, and he's back to his best. And I want to give him credit for that because I thought he was their best player quite clearly. Kate Chandler was very good too, but I just thought the midfield work, the clearance work from Clary, 36 touches and a goal as well. He was just so good, so good. Now the North players, Jerry needed votes here to be able to have the game that you have and do it against possibly the best rucker I've ever seen. He just made him look second rate, and a lot's been said about what Simon Goodwin said and what Max Gorn might or might not be going through. That's none of my business. But this game in and of itself showed me that Tristan Jerry is the best ruckman in the comp right now, and he made that very clear with his performance, and he deserves votes here. My three votes though goes to Tom Powell. I thought he was the best player on the ground. I'm so impressed with how he's been able to rise with the rest of this midfield group at North Melbourne. Everyone talks about LDU, Sheasel, Wardlaw, who's not playing but has shown it in the past and is a big prospect to watch. But Tom Powell was the best out of all of them yesterday, in my opinion. Just so good. 31 touches, one goal, eight clearances. Hats off to him, and I'm going to keep an eye on him over the next few weeks for sure because he was very, very good. Finishing up with Freo versus Sydney, this game was harder to pick players, probably due to the nature of what I spoke about before. The fact that it was a very back and forth game, very much a tussle, hard to watch. But I've managed to find three. I've given one vote to Josh Tracy here. I thought he was fantastic. 4 goals, 7 marks. He gave it a good crack. There's not much more he can do as a full forward. And I thought he was very good for the Dockers in a game that they almost won, really. So you got to give hats off to him. 2 votes I gave to James Jordan for another fantastic tagging performance. Pretty much shut Caleb Sarong out of the game. Caleb still had 19 touches and a goal, but the impact that we know Caleb Sarong can have, James Jordan just completely nullified it, much like he did with Lachie Neale the week before that. So any team playing Sydney, be careful in terms of like Supercoach fantasy and whatnot, putting faith in players that Sydney are playing because James Jordan will shut them down. I have no doubt about it. But the best player on the ground for me was Chad Warner, 26 touches and a goal. He did what he always does. And I think much like the loss against Hawthorn, but particularly because it's a win here, without him, I don't think they do the things that they do as a team. He's so important. And hopefully, for their sake, he puts pen to paper this week, as he's almost expected to do, or at least in the next couple of weeks. Because, yeah, tugging that jumper and playing the way he does week in, week out, it seems as if that's what he's going to do. And if he didn't, it would be heart-wrenching for them to see him go the way he's playing. But yeah, 3 votes for him for me. Which brings me to the leaderboard. Jordan Dawson and Chad Warner get out in front on 5 votes each. They've both been fantastic. Yeah, definitely excited to see how they continue throughout the year. Steel Sidebottom takes third spot on 4 votes, which is very impressive for a player of his experience to be matching it up to the players that are around him. Everyone else on this list is players that have only polled 3 votes in one game. So Day, Callahan, and Nankervis being the first three stay on the leaderboard. But all these players down the bottom here, if you can just put your head right up to the computer or the phone and have a look at them, are the players who have 3 votes in a game. So yeah, interested to see where this goes. I think we've done a good job so far. Exciting for sure. On to the Supercoach review now. We're going to make this fairly quick because it wasn't a great week for me. 1869 overall. My season rank is now 23,000. I've dropped 9,000 places. The round two rank was 54,000. So top 30%, but it's not great. I'm still top 13% overall, but I could have done a lot better for sure. Just quickly, I'll go through it first and then I'll readjust. But Jordan Clark, very good, 122. Roberts, 115. Riley Bice at 96 is fantastic. These two are a bit down, but obviously rookie price players, they're still going to gain cash with their break evens being as low as they are. Harry Sheasel went unders, but I suspect that that won't happen frequently. He's still got a lot of ball. It just wasn't a very super coach game by the looks of it. So wrong 99 with a tag is very helpful because more often than not, he's not copying a James Jordan tag, who I think is shaping to be the best tagger in the game. So 99 is very good there for that. Oliver, fantastic. Chera, fantastic. Will Day scoring 76. That's 2 weeks in a row that he scored in the 70s. And I think at this, like his gain price, which is great, 502 now, but I think his break even is something in the 120s now. So I think at this point, I'm going to look to move him on to someone who's going to consistently score that value and be a keeper at the end of the game. Someone like a Jordan Dawson, who I think has been fantastic, and I would like to have at the end. And he's going to continue this form in the meantime as well. So yeah, we'll see what I do there. But yeah, Will Day not as good as I expected. Elijah Sardis, I'm actually going to have to move as well, because he broke his finger before the game. Still scored 78, which I like. But yeah, God knows how long he's out for, so we'll probably look to move him on. Ashcroft, Lindsay, Campo, fine. Finn O'Sullivan, Max Hall on the bench. They'll gain cash as well. Anderson will move back in there. Oh, and Whitfield up there as well. We're going to move back in, but there's a couple of buys, so we're going to have to work this out. Jerry and DeConing, very good. DeConing not as much as week one, or round one rather, but still 104. I'm okay with that. Jerry is, yeah, he's not going anywhere. Horn, you might have seen I have a captain on Horn Francis. I just thought after looping DeConing and 104, I wasn't ecstatic with as a captain choice. I thought, let's move it to Jason Horn-Francis. He might go off on Richmond. Didn't really go off. 61, nowhere near enough. So that was an oversight from me. That lost me a fair chunk of points. Obviously, I'm not going to have the foresight to go to someone like a Jack McRae who went 162. But had I just gone with a Clayton Oliver, for example, 130, perfectly fine choice. Sarong wouldn't have gone as well, but 99 is still a lot better than 61. So it's the little choices in this game, and this little choice did not pay off. Rankin 97 being subbed out is helpful. I hope he's not a sub risk the further we go, because if he starts getting subbed out more often, like he could be pushing 120s, but getting subbed out at the start of the fourth quarter or whenever he got subbed off, just doesn't help that. So I'll take the 97, but we'll see how that goes. Caleb Daniel 116, fine. Kako a little bit under what I was hoping for, but we'll take it for now. Davidson, very good, 72. I'll take that. Nevitt, 58. Yeah. So yeah, we'll see what changes I make going into Thursday night. It's likely going to be just Day and Sardis, but yeah, we'll have a look at that. And now we can finish up with the tips. Got 5 out of 8 last week. I missed the Blues. I missed the Dockers at the end of the week, and there was one in the middle, the Cats against the Saints. I missed as well. So yeah, not terrible ones to miss. I always tip Carlton. On the video, I actually got 6 out of 8 because I tipped Hawthorn. But yeah, let's get on with this week. Round 3, starting with Essendon and Port Adelaide. I'm tipping Port. I'm definitely tipping Port. I think Essendon just didn't show enough defensively last week for me to have any faith in them knocking off this Port Adelaide side. Do I think that they've shown signs attacking wise? Yes. They're going to be a lot harder for Port to defend than Richmond. That's for sure. And Essendon also have the ability to pull out a good performance and shock a team. We know this. So I wouldn't be surprised if they played well here and it was closer. But I just think based on what I saw last week, I have to back Port in here pretty comfortably. So I'm going to go Port by 30 points. Carlton Bulldogs. This is an interesting one. I think we should be responding here. We really should be. If we go on 3 here and going into a game against Collingwood next Thursday night, there are issues. There are real issues. We've got to respond here, and I have no doubt that we'll do it. We just have to. We have to. Am I wrong for backing my side in here in a game where, based on what we've seen, is pretty 50-50 this season? Prior to the year, I would have thought this was a given, but obviously, based on what we've seen and the deficiencies that Carlton have in their game plan, I think it's a lot closer now. But I think we'll do it. I think we'll do it at Marvel as well. First game at Marvel for the year. I think we're going to show up. We have to. It's not going to be a blowout. We'll have our cardiac Carlton moments, but I think we're going to get the win. So 12 points there for the Blues. Melbourne Gold Coast. I was not impressed by what Melbourne dished off in that fourth quarter, as I said before, against the Roos. I think Gold Coast coming off that big win are going to be in it to do some damage here. Coming to the MCG as well, when what has been said about their away form in the past is that it's not up to scratch. This is the year where they have to get it right, as we've said, and I think they're going to get it more than right. And I think they're going to win this pretty well. Does it crack 50 points? Just on the edge. I'm going to go 8 goals. St Kilda Richmond. Poor. The Saints, after what they did to the Cats, should be getting the win pretty comfortably here. it's also the Saints. So do they let Richmond make a game out of this? I wouldn't be shocked. But at Docklands, which the Tigers don't play very well, um, and the Tigers coming off the loss that they've come off, I don't think they are much of a chance here against the Saints at all. Going to go St Kilda by 44 points. Brisbane Geelong at the Gabba. This was meant to happen in opening round. It's now happening in round three, and I'm glad because it means more footy this weekend. It also means that it's happening at the same time as Hawthorn GWS, which is actually not very good because I would like to watch both games, but I won't be able to. Um, at least not entirely anyway. But that being said, Brisbane Geelong. Geelong had that loss last week against the Saints, as we just talked about. Brisbane got their win against the Eagles. I was really impressed with how Brisbane were able to grind that win out. And I think at the Gabba, I think they'll have enough under lights to match up to this Cats team. Will they still be without Bailey Smith? I'm not sure. And I think he is a very important player. He might be back. But I just think even still, this Brisbane team should have enough. Um, you even look back to the finals game they played last year. I just think this Brisbane team has what it takes to get the better of this Cats team, like on paper. And I think they'll do it. So I'll say Brisbane by 12 points. Hawthorn GWS at the same time as the Brisbane Geelong game, as I said, is a cracker, an absolute cracker. Hawthorn playing the way that they are playing, just so impressive um, to watch. And they're going to be a force, and we know that. GWS also very likely a contender. Um, Coming off a bye, which is an interesting element. Does it affect them? Does it benefit them coming in fresh off a 2 week break? It's in Tassie as well. This is such a coin flip. Such a 50-50 coin flip. Oh, no, 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 no. This is not good. I'm tipping the Giants. I'm tipping the Giants by 3 points. Have I made a mistake there? Potentially the two best teams in the competition. Tell me what you think. Adelaide versus North Melbourne. Yeah, North were fantastic last week, as I said before. I think the way they picked apart Melbourne at the end of that game was very impressive and very indicative of the progress that they've made. But do I think that they're going to do that on a consistent basis? It really is too early to tell. Um, but I think Adelaide are much improved and they're going to do what we saw from them against the Bombers much more consistently. And I think at home, I'm edging them over North just about. But I don't think it'll be a blowout by any means. Yeah, I'm going to go the Crows by 3 goals. And we finish around with a Western Derby, West Coast versus Freo. And like I said at the end of my review of Sydney versus Freo, they've just got to bounce back. The Dockers, they can't lose this game. If you lose this game at this point, when you're expected to do so much more this season against your biggest rival, you go 0-3. It's not good, and I don't think it'll end well for them if that happens. I actually think they're going to win this by a decent margin. I'm going to go the Dockers by 50 points because I think they have a statement to make. And that game to start off round four is going to be very, very interesting depending on what happens with us next week. But for now, we're going to leave it there. Wow, interesting weekend ahead. So with that, the round two review, episode 19 of Footy and Stuff is done. Thank you for watching. Please like, subscribe, comment your suggestions as usual, all of that. All the social links are in the description. The TikTok accounts, my personal one, and the Footy and Stuff TikTok account, the Instagram and Twitter. So follow all of that. And until next week, we will see you later.